Hey, this is Enaa, and I want to talk about one of the Deep Space Nine episode that's a favorite of mine. It's the second episode of season 6 called Rocks and Shoals. And in this episode, the Dominion War is going on, and this really shows a lot of the dystopian aspects of Deep Space Nine, but it really has a larger, more subversive message that I'll get to in a moment. Now, the Dominion War really shows how Deep Space Nine is dystopian. Nothing's more dystopian, I would argue, than a war. And this war takes place over more than 2 seasons of the show. And just to recap, Cardassian and the Dominion are allied, and they're fighting the Federation and the Klingons, and the Federation and the Klingons are losing the war. And there are two main stories in this, and the first one I'll go into is that of the main crew, Sisko, Bashir, O'Brien, and all of them. They're on a captured Dominion ship in enemy space, and they're shot down, they go into a nebula, and they crash land on a planet. And some of the crew are injured, and they need to repair their communication equipment and get back to Federation space. But the problem is they're not alone on this planet. There's an enemy force of Jem'Hadar and Vorta, the alien species of the Dominion, at least two of them. And they've also crash landed on this planet. And with them, it's slightly different. The Vorta, the leader of the Jem'Hadar, he's gravely wounded. And the Jem'Hadar leader, Third Ramatakalam, is questioning the orders of his Vorta, which is decidedly something he's not supposed to do. Jem'Hadar are genetically engineered to obey their superiors. They're genetically engineered to be soldiers, ruthless killing machines. Now, the Jem'Hadar, they need a certain drug to survive. It keeps them loyal and so on and so forth. And the Jem'Hadar eventually encounter the Federation crew. There's some fighting. They capture some of their members, two of them. And the Vorta, he has the Jem'Hadar, Third Ramatakalam, go and exchange the two prisoners they capture for Captain Sisko and Julian Bashir, the doctor. And they make this exchange. Now, Sisko is trying to break down the conditioning for the Jem'Hadar because he knows they're greatly outnumbered, the Starfleet crew, and he wants the Jem'Hadar to turn on their Vorta, to turn on their leader. But the Jem'Hadar won't do that. Third Ramatakalam is loyal, obsessively. So Sisko and Bashir go to the Vorta. In fact, they're actually going to be let go once they meet with the Vorta. Now, they meet with the Vorta, Kevin, and Kevin, Julian Bashir treats him, and so on and so forth. And he heals him. And once Kevin is healed, he talks with Sisko and Bashir and tells them, he promises to give them their communication equipment because the Jem'Hadar are suffering through withdrawal because they don't have enough of their drug to survive, the Ketracel White. And furthermore, the Jem'Hadar, he's planning on backstabbing the Starfleet crew and having the Jem'Hadar attack their position. And he wants to, and he's willing to give them Starfleet, the Jem'Hadar's plan of attack, himself as a prisoner, and the communication equipment. Because if they don't do that, he'll run out of the drug before they can contact the Dominion, and the Jem'Hadar will go crazy and kill everyone anyway. So it's a horrible situation. Sisko agrees to this plan, and he sets up an ambush because Kevin gave them their whole plan of attack anyway. Now, you can argue Sisko's just shooting these people down. Aren't there rules in war? That's actually posed in the episode as well. But Sisko's decision, I believe, is justified because of what happens before the ambush can take place. Sisko meets with Third Ramatakalam and tells him he was betrayed, that they've got phasers locked on all of them and they're all going to be shot down. Third Ramatakalam says he's willing to give his life for the order of things. He knows he was betrayed, but it's not his life to give. He belongs to the Dominion. And Sisko, he tried to get them to surrender. So he goes back, the Jem'Hadar charge the position, and they're all shot down. And they're killed. And Kevin surrenders as a prisoner of war. So Kevin, a supposed Dominion loyal officer, betrayed his men who were devoutly loyal and willing to die, almost as samurais, I would guess, I would say. So they're all killed, and they get the equipment, and they're eventually able to go back to the Federation. Now, the B plot takes place on Deep Space Nine, or Terok Nor, which is now occupied by the Dominion. And Kira Nerys, who is a former Bajoran guerrilla soldier, had fought the Cardassians, and now she's working for them. She's the liaison officer. And she does her job. She, fills reports and, all that kind of stuff. And she hears that a Bajoran religious leader named Vedic Yazm is planning a protest against, because the Dominion is going to send advisors to Bajor to help with spare parts and supplies and that kind of thing. And Kira doesn't want this protest to happen because she's afraid there's going to be a crackdown on free speech and that there'll be arrests and all this. So she's willing to put a stop to it. And eventually, she talks to Yazm, and Yazm saying, you're becoming an apologist for them. You're arguing that they're really not planning the first stages of an invasion, which Yazm believes these advisors are planning an invasion eventually. And she's like, well, we'll take you to stand up. And Kira's ready to stop the protest, but Yazm actually hangs herself and dies there on the spot. And Kira is disgusted with herself because without even realizing it, she was willing to suppress free speech. She was willing to do the work of the Dominion without knowing it. A former resistance fighter was becoming a collaborator, and she resolves at the end of the episode to fight back, to organize a new resistance. And here's where the critique is involved. We see on the one hand Third Ramada Clan, a loyal soldier of the Dominion, genetically engineered to obey his commander, to be a soldier. And even though his commander betrays him, he is willing to die for this cause. He's like the ultimate samurai warrior, you can argue. And that's kind of what happens if you're almost inbred into a certain system. You become loyal to it to the point of death, even if the system's leaders betray you. Like it's almost the way we have it now in United States society. You're willing to stay loyal to that system even though it screwed you over. I mean, can you imagine that? And on the other hand, we have, and this is a critique in a slightly different way. Kira isn't just some ordinary bureaucrat who's doing work for the Dominion, this oppressive, tyrannical government. No, she was a former resistance fighter. She was someone who fought against oppression. And without even knowing it, by accepting the rules of the system, by accepting the parameters it sets up, she integrates herself as embedded in that and is willing to do its work for it. So without even realizing it, she's going to be an enforcer of that system. And that's kind of scary, but it's also a true fact of life. Because how many times have we known, and you can see this throughout history, of communists, socialists, anarchists, or principled people in general who say, I vow to change the world, and they become integrated into this larger system, even as it's screwing them over. They're willing to justify it and everything. And that makes someone like Kira a lot different than someone who is bred into that system. But it takes you both the same, and it's willing to gobble you up and to use you and to spit you out. And it will kill you. Because as we saw with Kevin, the Dominion is ultimately, it's duplicitous, it's treacherous, it's going to screw you over. But Kira, she's willing to break out. She's not willing to accept the parameters that are imposed upon her. She returns to her roots. She fights back. She organizes a new resistance. You can say that Kira's decision is illogical because what can she want, and with the people on the station, or just a few people really do? But the moment you accept the parameters of the system that's imposed upon you, the way Kira was doing, the way Third Ramada Clan was doing, you're buying into it. You're accepting it. You're not fighting back. But Kira is willing to throw out the game and operate like it's not there and resist. And that's kind of what we have to do. And this episode is a critique of being embedded in a certain kind of system. And when Kira fights back. She is the foil for Third Brahmaticon, someone so embedded. But he wasn't willing when given the chance to fight back. Kira takes her chance to fight back. And it's certain, when an event occurs, are you going to be loyal to it? When someone is willing to give their lives for a protest, are you going to ignore that event and be unfaithful to it? When Vedigyasam dies, should Kira be faithful to that protest? Should she faithful to that message? And ultimately she is. She's willing to fight back, even at a high cost. And that's the critique here, and that's what makes this episode not maybe dystopian, but it's also very radical in its message. Okay, this is Enaa. Until next time.